Thank you for joining us again, another episode of the Commend Journey. My name is Michael Diamond as your host. I am back with an amazing guest as always, and I am happy to let them, as in traditional Commend Journey fashion, introduce themselves. So guest, please let us know who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Lee Odess, the CEO of the Access Control Collective, also the Access Control Executive Brief, which is typically the brand name that we put out. Think of us as a content community analyst. We're focused on the global access control market, the today forward part of it. We try to bring a voice to the changes that are happening and the people that are making them. And we put on events, we write, we create content, and bring people together.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
So I guess where we're supposed to start our conversation with is how you see the convergence of access control and intercom systems reshaping the user experience, right? So particularly with the rise of mobile credentials and AI-driven communication, how is that landscape changing for us?
Sure. So, I see the intercom as a piece of access control, not sort of separate. But if you were to look at what's happening there, specifically, we'll talk about residential and we could talk about different areas, but through COVID, which would be the accelerator and where the transformation has happened is I look at the intercom as now a digital interface to an analog industry in a lot of ways, right? Before we had, even in the intercom side, when they were, metal boxes with numbers on them and then they dialed out to somebody, it's primarily call it analog. Yes, there was a digital voice that happened, but realistically, the interface, the experience was very analog version. And then in the access control, the reader has always been analog. It's like a big black thing on the wall. If it beeps, turns green, then go. If red, you don't. I think through COVID, what's happened is you saw this acceleration of the desire to have a user interface on the front end of your building. So it's now the digital interface to the building. And then if you go to the commercial side, same thing, a little less. I mean, it's more like depending on what the application of it, whether it's compliance, remote monitoring, visitor management, whatever it might be, it really is becoming more of an operational efficiency tool as well as an access control. We talk often about the idea that our industry shifted from keeping bad people out to letting the right people in, along with keeping bad people out. And then in addition to that, the ability to do operational efficiencies or revenue generation. And that's what this interface, the intercom, has become. What I believe has been somewhat of a subset of our industry is actually a tool in the solution-based selling aspect of going to market.
Hmm, interesting. Okay, so sort of building on that, then, in your view, how can those two systems evolve beyond traditional security functions to deliver something that's maybe non-standard or non-security benefits, like operational efficiencies or data-driven insights when it comes to building management?
Yeah, first off, I think most companies, you're going to see bifurcation into you're either a full set access control provider, so you go into the building as well than just sitting on the outside, or you're going to be a supplier to those that do work within the inside. Like I think, and for some who are big enough, maybe you'll be able to do both of those. But realistically, I think this idea to where most of the intercom industry has seen physical access control systems as distribution for them to get product to market. I think you'll start to compete and partner in a lot of ways. You're seeing it all over the place. And I think it's okay, due to the fact that the market is shifting than, say, the traditional $10 billion high security side to a larger marketplace that includes that, but then add another 60 billion with the operational efficiencies and revenue generation, as also you go deeper into the verticals to create better experiences for whatever that vertical might be. Those products become more utilized in delivering whatever the value proposition is that you're trying to do. So let's say in the residential side, it's not only about, people coming that are guests, which is realistically what it was primarily for, to reach people that live there. And then, that was like the 90 80% value proposition. Then you had 10% of like, oh, maintenance comes or whatever. I do think now as more services and things are coming into or on demand rental units, the ability to get access to different amenities that might be there. So as these residential multifamily spaces start to look more like hospitality and the need to be able to give a more dynamic on demand and then back end waterfall of operations that go out of there, you need more of an interface than like 9, 10, 11 buttons that gave you to a green LED screen that made you call the person that lived there. I think as these structures become, call them mini cities, really. And then as these mini cities connect to other mini cities, like I always find it hilarious that, you go to most cities and across the street from a residential building is a hotel where I can get anything in the world I want, but then like right across the street, which looks a lot like a hotel, it just happens to be where people live full time. I can't get anything. Like, and they're literally across the street. Or I'm in a place where I have multiple buildings. I think the days of this idea where you had, 17 pools on 17 different buildings or 17 different gyms, and so you can start to look at a connected facility where you're part of, this ecosystem,
Hmm.
and I can start to leverage and get access to that stuff.
Interesting. Okay. So we've seen a pretty rapid shift towards cloud and hybridized structures and access control. What do you think the biggest challenges of integrating modern intercom systems or systems with legacy architecture is, and how can organizations now balance security with scalability in those regards?
Sure. I mean, I think the first problem is more mental and people than it is anything technical. It's this identity crisis that we have as an industry where, for the past 30 years, we've been built on this idea that we are the people that take on the risk to keep bad people out. Don't worry about it. And all of the institutional knowledge that we brought to deliver that predictability to a building is now being challenged completely. So it's this sort of refactoring of belief of what we do as an industry to deliver value. It's seems like a whatever, but it's actually probably the biggest thing that gets in the way of doing it. It's like this is how we've done it for 30 years, so why would I do something different? It's like, well, because customers want it. So yeah, so that's the first one. Then outside of that, I think comes down to a handful of things. I think there's an educational gap of understanding of what systems can do. So, or, redoing it. So I jokingly use this often about, if we can take that memory stick thing from Men in Black and like, forget our brains and wake up, but then keep in mind that the stuff we do remember and know and apply, I think the quicker we can start to do that, the better. So an educational gap of to the customer of them understanding the art of the possible, what can happen, and then to know that it's not that far away. It's like it could happen now. I think that there's some needs around the technical side, of course. So some of the infrastructure needs, some of these buildings that were built off of what was it, two-wire SIP lines and things like that, or to now being IP based. So yeah, there's some real changes that have to happen on that case, but you're starting to see people be able to solve those problems. So to me, it's a reimagination of the art of the possible of what we could do, and in approaching the marketplace where, in some markets you're starting to see these digital interfaces from an intercom standpoint be standards. Like New York City, you know, even some of the B class, C class are getting it now, right? So you have it as it moves through. I do think as you move into some of these other marketplaces, it's just a matter of time. This is an inevitable truth of change that's going to happen, and the question to argue about is sort of when.
Mm.
So to me, it's just time and identity and education, I think, and then some technical to be able to deliver what I think is the inevitable change that has happened within, the way we approach intercom.
Yeah. I I wonder if the sort of growing influence of IoT and open API access in your access control industry, how you might envision systems contributing to that and sort of being more interoperable and more flexible, given the needs of the ecosystem, right? Which seem to be changing on a daily basis, which I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as a continuing opportunity, right? As those needs change, we have to innovate, right? So integrators and manufacturers have to sort of continue the chain of innovation rather than slow down, I think. I wonder how you'd see that
Yeah.
um, in that vision.
Yeah, I recently wrote about the concept that our industry has to stop using the word open until it actually understands the word of how it's being used.
Hmm.
We have a lot of aspirational marketing when it comes around that, and we believe that the customer wants open when, in fact, they typically want open for reasons of what it can go do. And in my opinion, they come down to things like trust and comfort that the system that I am going to select is going to be there for me for the next 30 years, where realistically going out of COVID, the stuff that I bought that was based off of a rear view looking of keeping bad people out part wasn't there. Like, I didn't have the ability to do cloud. I didn't have the ability to remote access. I can't do the digital interface of the old. Now, granted, a lot of the customers made those decisions, but there was a belief that it should be easier to be able to pick the different systems or upgrade and do things like that. And it's like, that's just not how we've rolled as an industry for a long time. So it was always the sort of walled garden sort of approach to the marketplace,
Mm.
proprietary type systems. I think as the industry turns and becomes more enterprise software focused, we start to take on some of those uh, feels, if you would, of those
Hmm.
industries. And one of those is the what I would even say is just more integrated. The concept of an idea. It gives the perception of open, but it's not necessarily truly the defined open. This ability that I can do best in class. I can take my system and I can add this part, this piece, whatever I want it to go be. I have that opportunity to go do that. I also, though, you're starting to see the introduction of middleware companies, which is historically been, PSIMs tried to do this kind of thing, but they sort of didn't work. But they're now morphing into these middleware and dashboard platform type companies, which are tying disparate systems together to deliver a solution that in a customer. So the ability to say yes to what they want to go do. So I think it's a mindset change. I think it's an approach to a market change. We talk about let's do what's best for the customer. So if we believe that, this is probably an area that we probably want to lean in on to do what's best for the customer. Now, that said, there are some business reasons of why you maybe approach it certain ways that you do, and some of the things that get in the way of just full whole hog doing it. Like if I've been built on this idea where I charge a lot of money to get access to your data and you have to take 2 weeks and fly to some city to go get trained and certified. It's like, I get it, but that's just not how it's going to move going forward. So those are, again, an inevitable truth that challenges the old truth of how we've
Hmm.
done. And it's part of the change to where we're going to wake up one day and this conversation around have like, should we be open and say no? Like that's how we function as an industry. We doesn't mean you can't go after the market yourself in a proprietary sort of siloed way as well. But the idea of being able to be open to be able to allow the customer to say yes, that's a mind shift and change that is going to have to happen.
Yeah, it sure sounds like the word disruption is hanging around here in the ether. So I'll just ask. Uh, we are facing, I think the industry is facing a lot of new entrants, disruption from those entrants from software only startups, right? How should more traditional intercom and access manufacturers adapt business models to stay competitive while meeting something like a modern enterprise demand?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to do two things. I think you got to either look at that as, hey, we're going to go fight fire with fire in a lot of ways, and you get more vertically integrated and turn more into like an enterprise software company that happens to have hardware than a hardware company that does software as a feature of that hardware. It's a mentality change where you invest your expectations on margin structure, like, the team that you have leveling up certain areas, how you market and communicate to them. It's just a different way of doing it. Your channel like changes at that point too. You bring some of the old and combine it with the new to create what you need. I jokingly give it as the same before, in basketball senses, way back in the day, everyone was 5'5" guards pretty much. And then at some point you're like, I need some 7 foot centers and some swingman and like rest. And you didn't like say, hey, I really hope these 5'5" guards overnight will just magically become 7 foot centers. No, you went and got 7 foot centers. You put them together with the 5'5" guards. You made a good team. Same thing has to happen with your channel and your people and the rest of it. Like go create what's needed for the next 30 years versus trying to incrementally change and shift what's happened for the past 30 years. Then the second one is that you can also though say, you know what? I'm going to be an enablement platform. And what I'm going to do here is make my products the de facto standard in a lot of ways and go partner with all these people and see these software companies as a mode of bringing my product to market and making it a little bit more accessible that way. Because not every software company also needs to become a hardware company. There's a belief in the software world because in my two things, I think A, hubris, and then B, I think because we're not as open to some of these software because it takes 6 months to get access to it. They're like, screw it, I'll just go build it myself or go find someone that will, and then they take it to market. So that I think the legacy or incumbent, depending on those two things are different in my world. The incumbent side can say, hey, we're going to help and we see this as an opportunity and you can make money off of doing it. And then I think third one is I think a combination of the two. I think there are certain areas of the marketplace that you can go after and compete, and then at the same time also partner.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think there has to be a specific approach, and some of these people are going to have to pick lanes. That's just natural. You have to make a
Yeah.
decision, but there's certainly a way to do both. So, in closing, I'll just ask: do you have any events coming up that you want to let folks who are watching or listening know? And then, where can they get a hold of you at if they'd like to learn more?
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, if you go on to LinkedIn, my LinkedIn, Lee Odess, is the best place if you're not a member of the Access Control Executive Brief. Um, Outside of that, our events, yeah, we've got your major events of ISC East, ISC West, Intersect Dubai, Saudi, and the security event in Birmingham, and then also in Singapore. You'll see us there. We do Thought Leadership Pavilion. So by all means, if you're going to be there, please participate. We've got a marketing show, our own, that's coming up. We also are doing an ACS, which is our big flagship show. We just came back from San Sebastian. We're doing in Latin America coming up with Google and a whole lot more. Like we're pretty active both online and content, but then the in-person side. So just engage. Happy to have anybody from the free on LinkedIn to the paid of a membership, or
Sure.
it doesn't matter on our end. We're excited to be part of the community and have the community part of ours too.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, Lee, and we look forward to speaking in the future.
You too. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate what you're doing with this, getting the word out. So thank you.
Thank you.